Thanks. I think this was an excellent overview of the Bigger Change, Faster report, and I hope that you will all go to the website and download the report and read the details that really support the selection of the challenges and also the selection of the interventions. So now I'd like to introduce Dr. Katharine Kreis. She's the Director of Strategic Initiatives and the lead for nutrition innovation at PATH. And she's also a Secretariat member of the Bridge Collaborative, and she'll talk about one of the transforming food system case studies. Thank you very much. Please, Katharine.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of the programs that we're working on under the rubric of the Bridge Collaborative that's really looking at improved food systems and particularly related to alternative proteins and even more specifically to cultured proteins. We received a very generous grant from the Rockefeller Foundation to look at this, but we wanted to do it under the rubric of the Bridge Collaborative. So we're actually working with the International Food Policy Research Institute, Duke University, and the Nature Conservancy as well as PATH to put together a new way of thinking and testing this model in a more comprehensive way. These new production technologies are for complete proteins, so those that are usually found in animal source foods. And we know that this is really important, and I'm sure you've seen this slide a million times, but we're really facing huge increases in demand for animal source foods, incomes that are rising, urbanization, and other reasons are really driving that demand. And from a nutrition perspective, we're very interested in how we can improve the quality of diets, as well as increasingly we're finding information out about consumption of animal source proteins and what that does for human growth and development. So a very interesting cross-sector look at this, as we're also thinking about that in the context of greenhouse gases and agriculture and land use and water use in particular. So our goal with this piece of work is really to assess the extent to which cultured proteins, particularly egg and dairy, can play a meaningful role in supporting global nutrition in a more sustainable way relative to proteins that are produced through traditional agricultural practices. And we're hoping to use the results then to inform the global community about how these emerging innovations will include about these emerging innovations, and we're going to have also recommendations on how their uptake might influence and contribute to global health and sustainable development moving forward. So just to do a little level setting, what the heck are cultured proteins anyway? Cultured proteins are cellular agriculture is the production of agricultural products from cell cultures. So cultured proteins are proteins that are produced in the way that we've produced enzymes and even some vaccines for decades. You basically take a GMO modified gene from a chicken or a cow or whatever whatever animal you want to kind of get their proteins from. You use an organism, a microflora, a yeast or a fungi. You insert that in there. You put it in like brewing beer, and you feed it to sugar, and then you get these purified proteins. You spin the catalyst out, so there is no GMO in the final product, but a GMO is used as a catalyst. So I sort of like to refer to these as the PHARM farm-raised as opposed to the FARM farm-raised, just to sort of give people a sense of how we're thinking about this. It's really, again, the same process that's used for producing many other household goods and medicines, most notably food enzymes. So just to give you a sense of this, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we have 4 different components of this. It ranges from a market landscape to look at the market for milk and egg proteins, the enabling environment, looking at how these might be used in different settings, a producing country, a consuming country, a procuring country, and then impact modeling on health, agriculture, and environment, and then looking at developing a carbon offset model. We had just finished up, or in the process of finishing up, the first two objectives. So one was to conduct a market landscape assessment, as I said, and a market analysis. I won't go through the methods, but we did a very pretty rigorous methodology there. And then our initial findings are really related to the market for milk and egg, which is very large, and consumption varies dramatically by country income levels. So we're finding, for example, that high-income countries consume roughly 6 times more milk products per capita and 9 times more eggs per capita than low-income countries. Detailed dietary guidelines, government initiatives, school programs, marketing campaigns are all contributing to these higher rates of dairy consumption. And milk is currently used as an ingredient in a small number of food aid products, which is important for us as we're thinking about how we improve the diets of very vulnerable people. And we think there's probably the potential to expand the use of milk in food aid products. In terms of second kind of big finding, the cultured protein market really is at a pivotal phase with products expected to launch early next year. So we're already seeing some of these products come onto the market. And what the implications will be for those initially is probably in high-income countries, for high-income consumers. They'll get their GRAS status or their policy regulatory environment sort of worked out, and then they'll start expansion. And then another finding was just sort of that most stakeholders had positive perceptions of cultured protein use in low and middle income settings, but they did question whether cost reductions were actually feasible. So that sort of remains to be seen. Our second objective was looking at that enabling environment and really trying to figure out what that might look like across a number of different countries. We looked at the United States, the European Union, and then 2 low and middle income geographies, India and Ethiopia. Again, a pretty rigorous methodology. And the summary of those findings really are around the fact that the industry is rapidly evolving, so things are changing very quickly. Multiple potential regulatory pathways exist and will depend on the final products that are launched. So it's really changing very fast, and people really are not 100% sure how they're going to be looking at that in different countries. And certainly that the GMO considerations are still very much an issue for people, and they vary widely by country. The report is going to be coming out within the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks, and we've got a lot more detail. So if that's something you're interested in, please do take a look at that. And thank you so much.